This is the Rich Stevens Radio Network.
All right, here we go. Thanks for being here. Hi, I'm Rich Stevens. Here's what we're looking at today. The FBI has arrested a white supremacist who was planning to bomb a synagogue in Colorado. That Popeyes sandwich kind of led to a stabbing. The United States officially gets out of the Paris Agreement, and the Cowboys beat the Giants 37-18 last night on Monday Night Football. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to a Tuesday broadcast. Let me tell you about this Popeyes thing, because this is out of control at this point. First of all, they started selling the sandwich again 2 days ago on Sunday nationally. And the marketing plan is it's available now all the time. People are still lining up for an hour or two just to get in. Would you wait in line an hour or two to get a sandwich at a fast food place, or any place for that matter? It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, the chicken sandwich at Popeyes kind of led to a fatal stabbing last night in Maryland. Now, according to police there, they got a call about a fight at a Popeyes location about 7 p.m. last night. The fight broke out when one man cut in front of another guy in line, and then they took the fight outside where one of the men got stabbed. Now, the police say we've been able to determine preliminarily, whatever that word is, that it's related to the release of the sandwich at the restaurant. And this individual was in line specifically for the sale of the sandwich when another customer and he got into an argument, and that ended with the victim being stabbed outside of the Popeyes. Now, so police got there, and they saw a 28-year-old man in the parking lot who had been stabbed. He was taken to the hospital, later died from his injuries. I realize people are excited over the sandwich, but it's not worth dying over, is it? Really? If you've had this chicken sandwich from Popeyes, I just want to know, please, somebody call me, 305-707-7878, 305-707-7878, or just get in touch with me via my website. Click the contact form, richstevensshow.com, and let me know if you've had the Popeyes chicken sandwich. And I just want to know, is it worth, is the hype living up to the actual eating of the sandwich? Is it that good? It just, there's nothing, I could be starving and I wouldn't wait in line that long for. Now, I wait in line a couple hours to get in my favorite sushi place, but that's a little bit of a different story, and that goes without saying. Listen, I don't know about you, but I am definitely screwed up by the time change. And over the weekend, of course, most of the people in the United States changed their clocks, except for people in Hawaii and Arizona, where they don't do that, which is what we're supposed to do here in Florida. And even though we keep on changing our clocks twice a year, most people hate it. That's why we voted in Florida to get rid of it and stay on one time all year round. But they just did a survey, and they say about 3/4 of Americans wish the time would just stay the same all year long. So it's not just us. But here's the thing. If we did have to pick one of the two options permanently, would it be standard time where it gets dark by 5:15, 5:30, or daylight saving time where it's still dark outside when we wake up? Which would you prefer? So according to the survey, they say people are split down the middle. About 40% of Americans say they'd like to see standard time all year long, and 30% would go for daylight saving, and the rest just want to keep switching back and forth. So we gained an hour over the weekend, but the big question is that really a good thing? So I found some information, because I know this screws with me. It's going to be a week or two before I'm back to normal. It just doesn't make sense. It screws with your biological clock. There's no doubt about it. It screws with our sleep patterns. Even if you gain an hour, messes with your routine. But it's definitely worse in the spring when we lose an hour. And there was one study that found some people never really adjust throughout the year. And it boosts the stress hormones from chronic sleep deprivation, and that can cause inflammation and raise your blood pressure. It causes more heart attacks in the spring. There's many studies that have found people suffer more heart attacks the morning after we spring forward in March but they say it's mainly people with existing conditions like serious heart disease. And then, as I keep saying, messing with your internal clock can cause a bunch of other issues too. It's been linked to higher rates of obesity, depression, and diabetes, and even being thrown off by 1 hour has this effect. It also causes more car crashes, especially in the spring. Another new study found this year that there was a brief spike in accidents right after the clocks shifted forward in March, but it's still not clear if there's a similar effect when we fall back. But losing or gaining an hour can definitely throw your rhythm off and make you less alert, and that could explain a lot of these things. So I'm just apologizing up front. If you've listened to me for any length of time, every time we do a time change, I bitch and moan about this because I just think it's awful, and it screws with me, and it might screw with you too, for at least a week, sometimes 2 weeks. It's just ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, I think it's ridiculous how the TV networks are all trying to do, and they do it because it's successful, so I understand. They try to bring back these old shows with different people, and sometimes, like Hawaii Five-0 is a great example. CBS has that, and I watch Hawaii Five-0, and I like it, and I'm used to it, and I'm not thinking of the old Hawaii Five-0. But there's certain shows that they bring back, and it just doesn't make any sense. Well, now they're bringing back, this is also CBS, because they have MacGyver and Magnum P.I. Magnum P.I. I never watched. MacGyver I never watched, and I don't watch it now, but I like Hawaii Five-0. So because of the success of these three schedules, they just ordered up a new series that I wish they were doing the old one, because I was in the old one a couple times. I'm talking about The Equalizer. The original series had Edward Woodward, who was the nicest guy ever. He was a retired intelligence operative who used his skills to help people in difficult situations who didn't have anywhere else to turn. And that show was on TV on CBS from 1985 to 1989. I was on it a few times in 1989, and I'll never forget that we were shooting in... This is actually very funny. We were actually shooting a scene in a laundromat in the city, a real laundromat, which we took over, or they took over, the production company. And the star, Edward Woodward, was talking to a woman. They were probably about 10 feet away from me. So I was in the shot, in this one particular shot, for about 30 seconds. I didn't have any lines in this particular instance. And what I was doing, I was putting clothes into the washing machine. I had a basket of laundry and I was putting in the washing machine. Now, there's a couple of funny stories here. The first funny story is that I really, back then, I never really did my own wash. My mom did it for me, or my girlfriend did it for me when I was living with her, or one of them. So I didn't know. And, after you do this, and they did, I think, like 8 takes of this particular scene. And every time I did the same thing. I would button the shirts, I would take the pants and flatten them out before I put them in the washing machine, which is not how you do laundry. To make a long story short, the New York Post on page 6 did a story about me because they were making fun of me doing laundry the way nobody else does laundry. You're not supposed to button the shirts and, kind of take the wrinkles out of the pants before you put it in. So I felt foolish about that. I ought to post a clip from that particular clip. It was pretty funny. It might be on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure. Excuse me. And then the other thing that was amazing. So after the 7th take, a guy walks in right next to my machine, and I'm standing there waiting for them, to take the scene again. And this guy's putting laundry into the machine, and I'm watching him. I'm thinking to myself, what is going on here? Next thing you know, he puts the quarters in and closes the machine. And then the director says, action, and they start talking again. They're hearing this noise, which was the washing machine, the guy next to me. And the director says, where is that noise coming from? And I pointed to the guy who was standing next to me. He walked in. I don't know how he got through the front door, which was guarded by New York City police officers. Somehow he was able to walk in. He was like in oblivion. He had no idea that they were actually shooting a television show, even though there's lights, there's cameras, there's all these people all over the place. And the director had explained to this guy, like, hey, you can't be doing laundry here right now. And the guy who actually came back and was arguing with him, what do you mean I can't do laundry? And he tried to explain to him that the production company has full use of this facility for the next 2 hours, so you'd have to wait. And the director actually sent somebody over, the assistant director, to open up the lid on it so it would stop making all the noise. But that was it was very, very interesting. I know I still have the article from the page 6 because it was making fun of me, but it was pretty funny. And hey, any publicity is usually good publicity, right? So I took it. On Monday, yesterday, FBI officials said they had thwarted a planned bombing at a Pueblo, Colorado synagogue. Pueblo, Colorado is really small. When I worked a few days a week in Colorado Springs, I got to go down to Pueblo. And Pueblo's most famous for, remember those commercials you used to see on TV? Get some kind of government book, Pueblo, Colorado 60609 or something to that effect. That's my take on Pueblo. It's very small, really small, and they have some really old buildings there. And one of the things they have is Temple Emmanuel, which is Colorado's second oldest synagogue. So the suspect that was behind this plot, they arrested him. They said it was a white supremacist, Richard Holzer, and that was his target, the Temple Emmanuel in Pueblo. So now he's facing charges of attempted to obstruct religious exercises by force using explosives and fire. He had other plans aside from the bombing. He told undercover FBI agents that he planned to poison members of that synagogue by putting arsenic in the water. He claimed apparently that he paid a Mexican cook to put some kind of poison together, and then he was going to poison the members of the temple. Thank God an undercover FBI agent got in touch with this guy on Facebook. This guy claimed that he was a supporter of white supremacy, the FBI agent, and he went into this group and he found this guy and they hooked up. And this Richard Holzer also posted on that same Facebook chat group, whatever you want to call it. I'm quoting him now. He says, I wish the Holocaust really did happen. They need to die. So it's a good thing that the FBI agent or the FBI in general was monitoring this because, some of the things that could go on, and that would have been such a tragedy. It's such a beautiful synagogue, too. A Florida story for you. A 13-year-old girl wrote on the bathroom wall in school, shooting up school tomorrow, 210, bye bitches, Gabby, which one 7th? She was arrested, felony and suspended school. And again, this is a middle school student. You can't play around anymore. You can't make a threat, because if you make a threat about any kind of shooting or bombing or anything like that, you will in fact be arrested and prosecuted. And speaking of being arrested and prosecuted, almost 500 Oklahoma prison inmates were released yesterday in the largest single-day commutation in U.S. history. Now, the State Pardon and Parole Board approved the inmates' release last week after they recommended commutation for 527 inmates. Now, these people got convicted for what they say low-level drug and property crimes, and they were reduced to misdemeanors after the governor there signed a bill which retroactively reduced their sentences. But just think about that, with all these people all of a sudden getting out of prison. I saw in the news last night there was this one woman who had a 12-year sentence. She served a year and a half and she's free. So, just that's one of the things you gotta take a seat back and say, wow, that's kind of crazy. It's kind of like the whole Michigas with the convicted felons being able to vote in this upcoming election in 2020. A lot of people are going to be able to vote that haven't been able to vote for years. Last night, the rally that Donald Trump had in Kentucky, he was actually there to help for the governor's race, to attack his Democratic political rivals and slam the impeachment inquiry into his presidency. He said these people are lunatics. While we are creating jobs and killing terrorists, the radical Democrats are going totally insane. They want to obliterate the rule of law, drive out faith from the public square, and, confiscate your guns, the president said. And it was a very fun rally, as they all are, to watch. In the beginning, they were playing, before the president came out, they played Michael Jackson's Beat It, followed by the Village People, Macho Man, which was, I thought, really great. And then Lee Greenwood sang Proud to be an American live right there, and it was really, really good. Speaking of the president, the United States Secret Service has listed President Donald Trump the number one target of death threats in the United States. Donald Trump Jr., his son, is number 2 on the list. Now, in his book, Triggered, Trump Jr. lists family members, friends, and prominent conservatives who have become the target of leftist critics and attackers. He wrote, I'm quoting now, "Anyone who supports my father is a target." Other names he listed, including Senator Rand Paul and his aide Sergio Gore, Representative Steve Scalise, his girlfriend Kimberly, his brother Eric Trump, his sister Ivanka Trump, former Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen, former White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, Senator Mitch McConnell, and Vice President Mike Pence. And for example, Scalise, who's the current House Minority Whip, was shot in 2017 during practice for a congressional baseball game by a radical left-wing extremist, James Hodgkinson. He ended up returning on September 28th and gave a speech about his experience. And the president's son also wrote that he and his family are not going to hide. He wrote, "To my siblings, Eric, Ivanka, Tiffany, and Barron, only you can understand the craziness we have experienced in the last 3 years. We learned who our true friends are, and we learned the viciousness of fake news. Nothing could have prepared us for the lies. We are Trumps. We don't play the victim card, and we will succeed here as well. We are in this together." That's some great words there. I'm friends with Eric Trump, and I've talked to him several times about off the radio when we're talking about just this particular topic, and it's just so intense. And the Secret Service has such a big job because they have to protect all of these people, the entire Trump family, including their kids. The kids of Eric Donald Jr. So, it's a big job, and there's a lot of sick people in the world. You got to be very careful. Remember that whistleblower whose complaint is the center of the Democrats' impeachment inquiry into the president? Well, the president has suggested they may be accused of political bias for a third unreported reason. You see, the whistleblower acknowledged to the intelligence community inspector general, the ICIG, that bias against President Trump might be against him or her for a reason that was previously unreported. Now, the nature of the third reason, we don't know what it is. They haven't disclosed that yet, but 2 previous reasons for potential political bias against the mystery whistleblower have been reported. Firstly, they say he's a registered Democrat, and secondly, they failed to disclose meeting with House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff's staff. I wonder what that third reason. It could be anything, but, it makes you wonder. Speaking of wondering, former Vice President Joe Biden. Remember when Joe Biden was the vice president and he was always coming up with these gaffes that just made for just good radio, good television? Well, he's done it again. He did it over the weekend. He claimed that he was in Ohio while he was campaigning in the Hawkeye State. Now, he's remained pretty much gaffe prone throughout this presidential bid, but he misspoke again during this campaign stop in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, at a Abby Finkenauer, I don't know how you pronounce that name, at a fish fry. This happened on Saturday, and he claimed that he was in Ohio, and then he corrected himself. He said, how many unsafe bridges do you still have here in the state of Ohio? And then he said, I mean Iowa. I was just in Ohio because they have more. No, it's true that he corrected himself. But this gaffe draws attention to the mounting gaffes that he has committed throughout his campaign. On Friday, Biden confused former presidents Andrew Johnson and Andrew Jackson during a speech in Des Moines. He said, look what happened in Charlottesville. He said there were very fine people on both sides. He continued and he repeated the long debunked lie he has heavily relied on throughout his presidential bid. No president has ever said that, he said, including Andrew Johnson before the Civil War. And then Biden also confused which state he was in during a campaign stop in Keene, New Hampshire a couple months ago. And days prior to that New Hampshire gaffe, the former vice president confused Burlington, Vermont with Burlington, Iowa, although he corrected his mistake as he did in Iowa over the weekend. But the Democrats know they're in trouble, especially when their front runner can't remember what he had for breakfast. I mean, why do you think they're pushing this? Think about this. Why do you think they're pushing this impeachment so hard? Because they're not going to be able to win back power legitimately at the ballot box in November 2020. So that's why they're going over this kind of stuff and trying as hard as they can. Kamala Harris, by the way, some sources are telling me that she's going to drop out sometime this week. She finally realizes that she's done. She's not polling well at all. The polls are, we were talking about this last night with a couple of friends, and we were talking about the polls, and it always goes back to Hillary. Remember the polls back in 2016 had Hillary not only winning, but she was already calling the moving truck to have her stuff moved into the White House. There was a magazine that said Madam President that was printed already, and some copies got out because all the polls were wrong. The polls don't mean anything. Don't watch the polls. And the solid proof of this is, have you ever been called to ask your opinion for one of these polls? I never have. I've lived all over the country, never got one poll question asked to me. 99% of this stuff, I believe, is made up by the networks just to keep, some talk going or whatever it is. A Homeland Security investigation led to a package, and this of course happened in Florida, that was coming from Belize to a home in Naples, which of course is on the west coast of Florida. It had 40 grams of cocaine inside. So they arrested the owner of the house where the package was addressed to, and inside the package they had bottles of hot sauce, seasoning, 3 plastic bags containing a red paste-like substance that surrounded the white substance, which was in fact the cocaine. Also had some souvenirs in it too. The white-colored substance is the thing that tested positive for cocaine. And what happened is the investigators, they got smart. They put a tracking device in the package, and when it was delivered to this home in Naples. So the guy grabbed the package, got into a car, and left the neighborhood. Investigators followed the tracking device to another home in Naples where a warrant was executed, and he was arrested. So there you go. I hope you're having a good Tuesday so far. Much better than me. I can hear my voice sounds a little bit weird today for some reason. I don't know why, but it does. I can hear it in my headphones. I also wanted to remind you to get in touch with me. Just go to Rich Stevens Show, R-I-C-H, Stevens with a V, richstevenshow.com. There's some great stuff on my blog there. Also some old pictures. I still need to add more, and I will. But if you want to reach out and get in touch, you just click on the contact form, and you get in touch with me right there. Also, I'm happy to say I've lost almost 20 pounds in the last few weeks. This new program that somebody turned me on to, the details are on my website as well if you want to get in on this. I've never experienced a weight loss plan like this, and it's more than a weight loss plan because, well, you just got to go to the website, click on, I think it says lose weight or something like that, and it's just, it's almost like a miracle thing, and I felt a lot better, and I feel a lot better over the last couple weeks since I started this program, and it's like nothing else I've ever tried before. because normally you go on these weight loss plans. Diets are you fail diets. You're set up for failure. This one does more than just help you lose the weight and keep it off. It also helps with your blood chemistry and just gives you a nice bolt of energy without having any kind of jitters or anything, because nobody wants that kind of stuff. Speaking of jitters, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, has told tourists in the Bronx, the South Bronx, to stay away from that staircase that has become somewhat of a tourist attraction because of the new Joker movie. That's where they filmed the staircase scene. So she has addressed the sudden influx of visitors to this staircase. I know exactly where it is. It's 167th Street in the Bronx, where film fans have tried to replicate the scene with Joaquin Phoenix's loner character dancing after transforming into the alter ego, the Joker. Now, she represents part of the East Bronx. It was born in the Bronx. She said, when I was growing up, everyone would tell us to stay away from those steps or go with a friend. And when she was asked why it was a place to be avoided, she said, you go there at night, whatever the Bronx is much safer now. It doesn't even really make sense, does it? You can't make this stuff up. The Salvation Army, we're moving into more of a technological place in our everyday lives. They're going to make it easier this holiday season for donors to give back during the season. And they announced they're accepting Apple Pay or Google Pay at some of their red kettles. Can you imagine? Smart chips and QR codes are going to be placed on red kettle signs, which will allow you to donate to either bump or scan your phone to make a digital donation. It just, I don't find anything wrong with that. I'm just saying it's the 5th of November. I mean, we just had Halloween. They kind of skipped over Thanksgiving and Veterans Day. You don't even hear about Veterans Day. But everybody's got their Christmas commercials and holiday commercials on television. I told you Costco's got their Christmas tree and all their Christmas stuff up for at least a month now already. And it keeps getting earlier and earlier that we are bombarded by this holiday stuff. I don't know about you. Holiday time is not my favorite time of year. I think I've told you that before. But I guess this is what we're forced into, right? I also forgot to tell you, if you're here in South Florida, we're getting a cool front that's finally coming through probably towards the end of this week and should last until next Thursday. But first, we're going to have some more rain. And I'm talking like into the 60s, which is a nice change. All right, that's it for me. Listen, I appreciate you being here as always. Please feel free to share The Rich Stevens Show on your social media, on your Facebook or YouTube or wherever you are, on Twitter and Instagram. Have a great Tuesday. And again, richstevensshow.com or 305-707-7878. You can text me, 305-707-7878, and just reach out and get rich. Thanks for listening. I really do appreciate it. Have a great Tuesday.